What's up, everyone? Welcome back inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We're back in the building, Tim, not just outside the building at the Woody Hayes statue. We're on the turf, and Ohio State will be on the turf in Ohio Stadium in 3 days. A hell of a segue there, Tim. Arkansas State up on the board, 3 days, Tim. First thoughts after hearing from some of the Buckeyes today. We're going to dive right into it. Let's go.
And by the way, this is the exact same turf as is in Ohio Stadium now and stuff, and it's really nice because it's brand new, and it definitely does feel different. But I digress. What's new? We're sitting here on a Wednesday wondering if Luke Whippler is going to start, whether he's going to play or not. The talented center for Ohio State, Matt Jones, obviously has taken some snaps at center. They feel real competent if Matt Jones has to go there, that he can carry the load, because one of the real reasons why is Enoch Vimahi stepped up last week and got some real-time action. A guy who would be the backup guard who would probably replace Matt Jones, if in fact that's the direction they go with that. The other thing is baby Aaron Donald. Quick, who were Zach Harrison and JT Tuimoloau out talking about when they called this one guy baby Aaron Donald?
That would be my call.
And who was another guy that walked up unprompted and said the same thing about him? That would have been Cam Brown, a cornerback. So the baby Aaron Donald nickname is moving through the Woody Hayes Athletic Center like Mike Hall. I was going to say COVID, but that is absolutely not what I mean.
Like Mike Hall through the Notre Dame offensive line. There you go, Tim.
I think he emerged as the alpha dog that Larry Johnson was wanting to see in that first game. Now can he do it again? The competitive stamina, etc., all those buzzwords. Everybody's watching this week against Arkansas State, whether Mike Hall can back up the performance he had last week, wrecking a lot of the blocking schemes in that Notre Dame front, and whether he can follow up and do it again.
So we'll take that with two pieces at a time, because you brought up two good points there. Luke Whippler will come second. Let's talk about Mike Hall first. I want a bigger sample size, and that might be greedy for me, considering that the offensive line Mike Hall did it to was supposed to be one of the best units in the country, and now he's going to go into Arkansas State. However, I will say, I'm not going to take any credit away from Mike Hall. I don't know if Notre Dame really expected that from Mike Hall. I don't know what the blocking scheme would have been had they known Mike Hall was good. But no matter how you spin it, Mike Hall was incredible against Notre Dame. And now I would like to see him do it again and again. And once he does that, then he will probably be the alpha dog of this room. He has established himself as the front runner to be the alpha dog of this room. But one game sample size, you would definitely like to see him do it again and not be a flash in the pan for Ohio State. And that's not saying he will be. I just, and usually I'm not the one to pour water on the hype. But it is just a one-game sample size. Tim, I know you're champing at the bit to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I am not ever interrupting you again, ever. That's my New Year's pledge, and that was just the middle of the year when I made that pledge. Yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, that's what I just said a while ago. Competitive stamina means you do it again. Competitive excellence means you get it done, you make a play, or you make some plays in a game, can you do it again the next time? And it's not putting the onus at all on Mike Hall. I thought he had a tremendous opening game. If Notre Dame didn't know about him, that means they weren't reading or listening to anything we were writing throughout August, when everybody kept talking about Mike Hall and the pressure that he brought play to play, just on a different level. Even in the spring, we were talking about that. The guy you'd really like maybe see step up his game, maybe become more of a presence this second game around, is Tyleik Williams. And there's a guy that could definitely be in the running for that alpha dog. And to me, the alpha dog, I know it's all four of those defensive linemen are eligible for it, the 12 that are playing those four spots. That guy's got to come from the middle. I mean, from the inside of your defense. Aaron Donald is the alpha dog of the Los Angeles Rams, no doubt about it, maybe of the NFL. And when you can be disruptive, we talked about this a bunch in preseason, we talked about it last week, when you can be disruptive in the middle of the offensive line, you've got some things going for you defensively. It changes the way that the offense has to play you, changes the way they have to block things when you're on the field and are a threat to be in the quarterback's lap every play.
Well, there's two.
Now, obviously, he wasn't in the quarterback. He didn't sack the quarterback every play, but his presence was definitely felt.
So there are two ways to look at that, Tim.
That wasn't an interruption, by the way.
Oh, I know. The alpha dog can come from the interior with Jalen Carter at Georgia. Brian Brzee, we saw Monday night for Clemson against Georgia Tech, was a one-man wrecking crew for that defensive line. Or it can come from the outside with Will Anderson at Alabama. I happen to be of the opinion that Ohio State could possibly have a couple guys there. We talked to one of them tonight, JT Tuimoloau. He is one of the most talented players in this room, in that defensive line room, and there's no question about it. So can Mike Hall be a game changer on the interior? Hell yes, he can be. But also, if you're diverting attention to Mike Hall and away from JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer and Zach Harrison, that makes everyone's job easier, including Tuimoloau and Sawyer and Harrison, who all three have all the talent that you could possibly want on the defensive line. So yes, Mike Hall is a complete game changer. But also, I promised we were going to talk about it. On the other side of that offensive line, Luke Whippler is a game changer. We found that out from C.J. Stroud on Tuesday, with just how much command those two have over blitz pickups and trying to figure things out on that offensive line, what the defense is shifting into. If Luke Whippler can't play, I think they have a lot of trust in Matt Jones. I think they have some trust in Jacob James.
Yes.
So there are. Oh, that's not an interruption, Tim. That's conversational. But there is some trust there where you could probably afford to sit Luke Whippler for this game against Arkansas State, an overmatched opponent, and still get away with it. But you would like to have Luke Whippler out there for the second game of the season. Go ahead.
Yeah. You know, this isn't treating Arkansas State differently than you treat Notre Dame. But if Luke Whippler, we're still not sure exactly what his injury is, but it has to be somewhere in the realm of the foot-ankle area. If you can give him a whole week, quote, off, end quote, that works so many miracles for you. I mean, down the road, without him pressing just to be in the game, just to make an appearance. Because, man, the last thing you want an offensive lineman dealing with is something with one of his wheels. And number two, Enoch Vimahi stepped up last week. It was only a couple, 3 plays, but they've been talking about his rise this preseason camp. Justin Fry, I think, has really done wonders with this offensive line group from a confidence standpoint and a competent standpoint.
Yeah.
And it would behoove them to, like, maybe get in there and let Enoch Vimahi, for example, play a lot more. Josh Fryer play a lot more this week than they did a week ago, because that was probably the one Achilles that we all had concerns about for this football team, was depth on the offensive line. Well, it came to bear the other night in the opener against Notre Dame on the drive that clinched it, the 95-yard drive, and those guys stepped up, in my opinion. So I think it would behoove them, I like saying it, would behoove them to probably go with what we're talking about this week and let Luke Whippler definitely rest that whatever is wrong with him.
It would also behoove Ohio State to get out to a quick start, get this game in control.
Let me interrupt. This isn't an interruption. That is always their intent.
Well, yeah.
Okay, I don't know if people understand that, but the other team practices too. Now go ahead.
Yeah, but you know what I'm trying to say here. Arkansas State is, again, obviously an overmatched opponent. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. Ohio State would be very wise to not play with its food. Sometimes you see that with lower tier opponents, that sometimes you come out and you play with your food a little bit. I don't think Ohio State wants to do that. Whether they have their full arsenal of offensive playmakers. We saw Jackson Smith-Njigba catching passes out here tonight on the jugs machine, but he's using his arms and hands there, and he wasn't using his legs. So I think I think he can still do that regardless of whether he's injured or not. So I'm not going to pass any judgment on his status. I would not, personally, I wouldn't have him out there, but I'm not a trainer or a medical professional, nor am I Jackson Smith-Njigba trying to feel out whether I'm healthy or not. Luke Whippler, kind of the same way. If he's healthy, he can play, but should he? I don't know. It's just a balance that they've got to have right now, Tim, especially with these two coming up, Arkansas State and Toledo. Would you rather have the guys out there to say that you played 12 games, or would you rather have the guys out there on September 24th in the Horseshoe against Wisconsin for a huge Big Ten game? That's quite the balance to try to strike right now.
I've stated my case on that. I mean, that's what I mean. If you can afford to get a guy rest who's dealing with a malady that demanded a isolation boot be put on, I think you get him as much rest as possible, especially when he is the center. He is so vital to this team through the Big Ten season down the stretch, from the standpoint of calling out blocking schemes, etc., recognizing what the defenses are doing. As we got the word from C.J. Stroud yesterday, C.J. Stroud is sort of the president of that, and Luke Whippler is the vice president, because Luke's down here seeing it, C.J.'s up here seeing it. A lot of times what they're seeing jives. A lot of times there's a little bit of a conflict, and it's up to C.J. Stroud to settle that conflict. This week, in fact, if Luke's not available, as C.J. Stroud alluded yesterday, it would probably just fall on him to make these blocking calls, adjustments, etc., to whatever front Arkansas State is throwing at them. But I think we've run that horse into the ground.
Yeah. Does that make Travion Henderson or Jackson Smith-Njigba like Homeland Security head, or
no? They just better be listening.
House?
They better be listening to what C.J. Stroud has to say before the snap, or watching their coaches make adjustments. The interesting thing to me was talking to Emeka Egbuka tonight too. You know, that was his first start. Suddenly, he was the leader of the wide receiver room. He and Marvin Harrison Jr. And he played like a leader, in my opinion, in that game. After Jackson Smith-Njigba had to go out, came back in, didn't really feel good about it, and left. I'm talking about Jackson Smith-Njigba. And you know, you got to, no matter how you turn it, you know, you got to keep talking about this. I mean, Xavier Johnson stepped up and played like a savvy pro when they needed him the most the other night. A guy that most folks had never heard of, unless they were really paying attention to special teams play. You got to give it up to Brian Hartline in this wide receiver room. And of the older guys, Emeka Egbuka, the older guy, right?
Yeah.
He's been there 2 years.
You know.
Xavier Johnson is in his 5th year, you know, but he was a walk-on defensive back, safety, whatever. As a matter of fact, Urban Meyer and I talked about him on Urban's Take today, about the latest Urban's Take, just about how he walked on in 2018. And they were looking at him as possibly a cornerback, possibly a safety. Suddenly now he's in the wide receiver room, and boy, did he play well. But the point is, now they can rely on him. That's what Emeka Egbuka was talking about him and Xavier and everybody else in that room now. Everybody got a little bit more experience than maybe they were expecting the other night, with Jackson Smith-Njigba going to leave the game. And that bodes well for them down the stretch, but especially Saturday.
Ohio State knows it can rely on those wide receivers. You can rely on getting all your coverage of Ohio State football all year long from LettermenRow.com. You see what I did there, Tim? That's Tim May. I'm Spencer Holbrook. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're there almost daily at this point, making videos. The Lettermen Lounge is always a great place to hang out. We're answering subscriber questions at all times there. Yeah, so just come hang out with us. We'll be back in the Horseshoe on Saturday. We'll be back talking to Ryan Day tomorrow. Full coverage of Ohio State leading into the Arkansas State game at noon on Saturday in the Horseshoe. We'll see you there.